Hey guys, we are going to take notes on value and texture today, and then we're going to do a few exercises in our sketchbook for graffiti lettering. So let's go to order of activities. We are on notes on value and texture, so I'm going to click there. I've included the graffiti letter examples. I've left those there in case you need them for drawing graffiti letters. Okay, but for now we're going to define value and texture together. So I like to put the date on my paper, and I'm going to label it number 3, value and texture. And when you upload this to Google Classroom, you'll look for number 3, value and texture. All right, so let's go ahead and define value first. So value is the lightness or darkness of a surface. Okay, and artists use value to show depth in their work. This is typically done with shading. So, if I'm going to draw an object and I want you to know that the light source is here, I would shade the other two sides of my object. And that's essentially what value means. But we're going to be doing this with lettering. So graffiti artists use shadows and highlights in their in letters to show depth, to make them look three-dimensional, to show depth. And I'm going to show you an example really quick. So let's say look 3D. Okay, so I'm going to show you an example right here, and you can even zoom in. So this is an artist. This is in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and this artist has used value to show depth, so much so that this object looks 3D. It looks like it's standing out from the wall, but really it's on this corner. So this is completely flat. Is that not wild? He also uses a lot of texture to show, to make this look like metal. So he's using highlights and shadows to show this texture as being metal. And then he added texture in the gator to make it look realistic as well. Okay, so we're going to practice doing that. So if I were to take some letters, I'm going to use Mats as my letters, like, Matadors. Write in Mats really quickly on my paper. It's not going to be perfect. That's okay. Remember, S's are hard. I don't like doing S's. They're just too challenging. But you can always erase. Okay, so one thing you have to know about value, specifically when you're using shadows and highlights, is you want to choose where your highlight is going to be or where your light is hitting the surface and where your shadow is going to be. And they're usually going to be opposite each other. So if I wanted to add depth to this, and remember from yesterday, we can only see one side of our, we can only see the top or the bottom. We can't see the top and the bottom, right? So if I'm going to see the top of my design, so I'm adding in my form really quickly, so I don't want you guys to get bored. Right, so okay, so I want my highlight to be, let's pretend my sunshine is coming in from the right. this way. This is my sunshine or my light source. And my shadow is going to be on the left. So what I would do is shade in the left side of my design. Take your time. It can look a lot nicer than mine. I just don't want to make this video too long. Okay, and shadows really come in handy with curved letters that are harder to add. If you're doing block letters, they're harder to create, to turn into forms. So value really helps with that. And then I can have my, my highlight on this side. So if I were gonna color this in, I could just leave this part white and I have a highlight, okay? So our next element of art is texture. And just like I showed you, this artist uses, he actually uses shadow and highlights to create this texture of metal. So this design looks like metal, and then he adds the texture to the alligator, and texture makes something look realistic. So the definition of texture. Texture describes the surface quality. Texture describes the surface quality of an object. Okay, so artists use texture to make objects look 3D. Look 3D and realistic. So it gives this illusion that the object is real, right? So these textures give this illusion that the alligator is real, give the illusion that this lettering is actually metal, but it's not. Okay, so graffiti artists use lots of different textures. They use cracks and different things. If I were going to draw an M, for instance, I could add cracks, right, to make it look really cool and realistic. You could add like a wood grain texture to make it look like wood, right? In some instances, you could add a brick texture to make your letters look like bricks, look like a brick wall. There's lots of different ways you can add textures. You can add drips, right? My drips are kind of wonky looking, but you can practice these drips over here to make cool designs for your graffiti letters. Okay, so those are the two elements of design, elements of art that we're going to practice today. On another page in your sketchbook, you're going to actually practice these designs. So if we go back to order of activities, it says practice adding value and texture to words. So again, I'm going to put the date. I like to put the date so that come February, I know that I'm a more skilled artist than I was in October. So we'll do number 3, value and texture practice. All right, so I've given you a few practice assignments. So the first thing that you're going to do is add highlights and shadows to the word mats. And I've given you an example of how to draw the word mats. So you can practice drawing. You can practice drawing your word using bubble letters. some drips down here, didn't I? Let's go back and look at our word. Okay, and then I overlapped my words, my letters, because it just makes it a little more interesting. We're going to talk about that in the next few days as well. So you're going to draw mats out, and I have faith that all of you can do this. In your sketchbook. Do my S. Again, S's are hard, man. I don't like them. And I have so many S's in my name. Okay, so I drew the word out, first of all. Looks decent. Now I'm going to add my shadows and highlights. And remember, you have to add shadows and highlights have to be on the opposite of each other. So right here, I'm going to write value so I know what I'm working on. Shadows and highlights. So I'm going to have my light source over here. My sunshine is going to be on this side. You don't have to draw the sunshine if you want to, which means my shadows are going to be on the opposite side. So go ahead and create my shadows here. My shadows are going to be opposite, right, from my highlights. And then my highlights, I'm going to put little sort of bubble highlights to kind of add to the bubble letter idea. Again, so my shadow would be on this side, and my highlight would be on this side. Okay, but again, I have a shadow on this side. Okay, so I want you to go ahead and finish that. Finish adding your shadows and your highlights, and then I want you to label them. Okay, so when you're done, I want you to label your shadows and highlights. So I know that you know. Okay, and then the second thing you're going to do is work on texture. So I've given you 2 words. Oh, and if you need the answer, if you need a little help, you can click on this link and it'll take you to the answer. But I don't want you to use this unless you have to. I'm going to hide it, okay? So the next thing you're going to do is you're going to finish drawing the word cracks and drips, and then you'll add the missing textures. So here we have the word cracks, but I didn't finish drawing all the cracks for you guys. So you're going to draw the word first, and if you have to do this on 2 sheets of paper, you go for it. Use as much paper as you want. If you need to use the back, that's fine. Okay, so you'll draw the word, finish drawing the word first, which I'm just going to show you what I mean because I want you guys to practice doing this at home, right? So we're adding our form. Turning our letter into a form, and if you notice, there's a shadow on the C, so you're going to include a shadow when you finish drawing, right? Okay, and then I would add in the cracks that I see. So I'm drawing the word cracks, and then I'm adding the rest of the cracks. And then you're going to do the same thing down here with the word drips. So you're missing some of the lines. So I want you to use your brain to come up with what's missing. The line for the R is missing, the I is missing, right? And then you'll add the different drips. And again, if you need help, the answer is right here. Okay, but don't look at it if you don't have to. All right, and then you're going to upload this to Google Classroom. You're going to turn it in. See, it has this little tab right here. You're going to turn this in on Google Classroom, both pages. So you'll take a picture of your notes and you'll take a picture of your practice and you'll turn both of those in on Google Classroom. Okay? Have a wonderful day.